Hey guys, welcome to another Graphic Sauce Media video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 things I learned in 2019 when it comes to running my videography business. Keep in mind, I am strictly, as of right now, a wedding videographer, so these things will pertain mostly to that, but some of them will also carry over into other forms of videography for like commercial and other clientele, so to speak. Some of these also might actually pertain to other vendors for weddings, so like you photographers out there, DJs, things like that. That kind of thing. Those will some of these will pertain to those, but this is what I've learned from 2019 for my videography business. Let's get into the top 5. So number 5 is a conversation management system, and by no means do you have to download and purchase actual software to do this. You can do this with a simple pen and paper. We chose to do this with a combination of pen and paper and then also software. All the software we used was free, so we used a combination of Google Docs, Forms, and Google Calendars to kind of keep tabs on all of our running conversations, contracts, open dates, and things like that. And then as far as like open conversations goes, the first phone call that we had with a prospective client, or any subsequent phone call after that, we had it written down on paper, what we talked about. We written down, the conversation key points. I had a list of questions that I ask and try to bring up in conversation. So that's all written down in a file that I have for each of my prospective clients, that I will pull out a month or two ahead of time of their actual ceremony, and kind of refresh my memory what we talked about, what they're looking for, and things like that. Now, on the actual management side of things, like I said, we use Google Documents to create actual contracts and things like that. So that's where they sign their contract. They can do it digitally. They can print it out and sign it and mail it back to us. It's really kind of convenient for the customer to get it back to us. Then we use Google Calendar to kind of mark off days that we've booked, potential days that we've booked. So like if we're talking to a client and it seems like it's going in the right direction, we'll gray that day out. We won't block it out completely, but we'll kind of mark in their potential wedding video or potential wedding photo or both for that day. That way we know if we ever talk to another bride that has that specific day, we can say, okay, well, we are talking with another bride. She hasn't booked us. She hasn't paid. We don't have a contract back. Nothing like that. In our situation, the way that you are fully booked with us, and this might be like kind of like a 5.1 type of thing, you have to have your contract and your deposit paid in our hands to be fully booked. There's been times where we've had a contract in hand but no down payment, and it specifically says in our contract that your date is not being held until we get that actual payment. So luckily we didn't run into any issues in 2019 with that, but that's kind of something that we talk about in the conversation at the very beginning when we have the client on the phone. We always say, we'll send you a contract, read over it, take a look at it, but keep in mind, you're not booked. We're not blocking out your date until we have that back in our hands and the date and the deposit. Then that is your day. You've got us booked. We're not actively searching out clients for those days, but if another client comes in and says, "Hey, this is my date. I'm ready to book. Where do I sign? Here's my deposit." Sorry, Charlie. So we use Google Documents, we use Google Calendars, and then Google Forms is another software that we use to send out a timeline request for the couple, usually about a month ahead of time, so that they have everything in line and everything. They know when things are going to happen. And hers is a little bit different than mine. Mine really kind of focuses on who's going to be speaking and where they're going to be speaking. That way I can have cameras set up and audio equipment set up for that capture. So like I said, they're a little bit different, but Google Forms works great for that because you can email it to them, they can fill it out right there in their browser, and then you get a response back. And you can even set up to where you'll get a notification when you get that response. So it works out really well. The other thing, you can download it as a PDF. So like the day of the wedding, you can have it on your phone, and you can have the PDF on your phone, and you can be like, okay, what's next? This is next. Okay, that's next. We're good there. Okay, next. And you can kind of not necessarily check things off. I guess you could edit the PDF. You could draw lines through, but at least you have like a running timeline of what's going on and who's speaking and stuff like that. So I will tell you this, between Amanda and I, we had over 35 weddings this year, and that's both video and photo combined. And the interesting thing was we didn't run into any problems, like major problems. We ran into some issues where, our system had failed because it's a lot of manual work, moving people from a potential client, status to a client status when you're, operating with 3 or 4 different devices and paper and pencil. So there is a little bit extra manual work when it comes to that, and some things can fall through the cracks. So if you're not a very organized person, you might consider purchasing a client management system or client management software. There's quite a few of them out there, but again, that's something that you'll have to look at. The one thing that I wish was a little more streamlined was the contract. That's something that I'm going to look into in 2020, because we'll have a contract out, and I don't have a way of identifying which contracts are out, how long they've been out, and a good system for reaching back out to that person. So that's one thing that I want to work on. I don't know if there's some type of reminder system that I can set up where it's like, and it might be another manual thing too, right? It might be, I sent this email out with the contract. I got to set myself a reminder, hey Siri, set reminder 3 days, contact this person. If it's something like that, it's not that big of a deal. But again, that's one of those things that I have to go back and, kind of look at. That's one of the shortcomings that we came across last year. So that's the conversation management side. So number 4 is rehearsals. This is huge, especially if you haven't been at the location where you're going to be shooting. If you can get to the rehearsal, that makes your day so much better. I attended 2 rehearsals this year, which was fantastic. And the one was probably a lifesaver. It was in a church, and everyone's like, "Oh no, a church! Like you can't get anywhere near, the couple. You had to shoot from, 60, 70 feet away, and like, how is this going to work?" It wasn't anything like that. The church was fun. The church was fantastic. The pastor was great. He let me get real close to the couple without interjecting. The uniqueness of this church is why I say getting to the rehearsal was a fantastic idea. So normally when you're at a wedding, you've got like a center aisle that comes right to the altar, and everybody's all around. You've got the bride side, you've got the groom side, the pastor and the groom, and then you've got the congregation, and they just walk right down the aisle. Well, this church didn't have a center aisle. They had 2 side aisles. So not if I hadn't gone to the rehearsal, I wouldn't have known which side they were going down, right? And B, I wouldn't know which side they were coming up. And turns out they are actually going down one aisle for the procession, and then the procession they're coming out the other aisle. So it just made it that much easier to kind of set up tripods with cameras. With me being a one-man shop most of the time, setting up a camera and knowing where people are going to be and being able to set up with a camera in hand and being able to make sure that I capture what I need to without having a tripod in the background or having being too far away from what's happening. Like that, being at that rehearsal definitely saved that wedding, hands down. Definitely save that wedding. So if you can get to the rehearsal, it's definitely going to help with your setup, your placement of cameras. The other thing it's going to help you out is if you need additional equipment. This is almost like a mute topic, but because you're so close to the actual wedding. But if you've got the equipment, on hand, you can bring it, right? So like if let's say for example that the pastor didn't want me anywhere near the congregation. I had to stay up in a balcony, right? I'm going to need a lot longer lens on multiple cameras so that I can get a couple different angles. and I don't always bring those lenses. Like, they're really heavy, they're really expensive, and for the most part, I can get what I need with, the zooms that I have on these specific cameras. I don't bring the big heavy ones because it's just not necessary. So going to a ceremony at a church where you're up in the balcony, you need to have those. Otherwise, all your shots are just going to be these wide open shots with the back of everybody's head. You're not going to be able to get in close enough. So having the right equipment is going to benefit you by going to the rehearsal. Number 3, this is a big one. This is communicating with the other vendors. As a videographer, communicating with the photographers, communicating with the DJs. Those two people are super important. And then also communicating with like either the church pastor or the church organizer or the event organizer. That helps out a lot because you can get to know people and kind of get in with them to where you can ask for favors and maybe push the line a little bit. So like if you get a good relationship building with the pastor, you put them, get the microphone on them and all that stuff, but making sure that you can still get the shots that you want, get up close and personal and things like that without impeding on, stepping over the line. Maybe you can push the line forward a little bit. So, for example, talking with like the DJ ahead of time, and this is something that I need to get better at, is contacting the DJ before the event to find out, hey, I'd like to get a line out from the board if I can. That way I can record the actual vows. If you're going to mic the groom or if you're going to mic the officiant, I can get kind of that backup recording. I'm still going to place a microphone on them just to be on the safe side, so I've got some redundancy, but I'd like to get that line out. And then also if I can get one out during the reception, that way I can get like the toasts and the speeches, and then also like the like any type of prayers or anything like that. Always ask. It's a big thing. Always ask. Don't tell them what you want. Ask them if it's okay if you get it first, and say, okay, I've got all these chords. Which one would be the best one to bring, and that way, you already know that you have all the cables, but for a fact that he's got this, and this is what you're going to get. So like, okay, maybe I should bring a backup of one of those, just in case it fails and something happens. So number 2 is capture more. You've got all this space on your memory card, use it, right? Get multiple angles. This is something that I learned very quickly, is I would go to, it was really big with receptions, right? I would go to the reception and I'd be like, okay, let's get the cake. All right, cake's good. And then I would get, okay, let's get the table placings. Got them. All right, let's get the head table. Got it. Okay, I got all those stuff. What's next? Let's get the guest book. Someone signing the guest book. So, record someone signing the guest book. Perfect. Got it. And then I would go home and I'd be like, my editing process would be like, man, I only got one shot of each of these and one angle. I really, I can't tell a story with just a very good story with just these one shots. So like the guest book of it, for example, getting an over the shoulder shot of someone writing, right? You get their shoulder, you get their shirt, you get like kind of their hair, and then you can kind of you come around in front of them, you get their face and they're kind of smiling as they're writing, you kind of get the rest of their shirt, so you kind of get that reveal of who it is, and then into the next shot, you superimpose on what they're writing. And it doesn't have to be like so they can read it, but you want to get the pen to the paper, get that real dramatic shot, and maybe slow it down just a little bit so it's nice and slow and smooth. That's the kind of stuff you want, right? You want more to capture. You want to be able to record multiple angles so that you can put that stuff together in a sequence, and it just makes it look more professional. The other thing you can do is you can time it to music, so that like maybe during a specific time in the song where it's like dun da da da, you can boop boo doo doo, and you can go right through that nice little scene of over the shoulder, facing, smiling, and then the writing. Like, it's just smoother. It just makes for a better quality film. And having more options is great for like transitions, right? So like, if you're transitioning from one thing to the next, and you only have one shot to work with, that, it might seem like a sudden jump from one to the other if you only have that one to work with. But like, let's say you've got, a still shot, and then you got like a pan or I guess a pan of the cake would be more, up or down, and you could do left to right, but if you've got a pan of the cake going up like this, and then like maybe you've got a solid image of a side image of the actual cake topper, things like that, where you can kind of integrate some movement with some stills. That way, not everything is like this, done. So number one, this is the biggest thing that I learned in 2019. Understanding my editing process. Specifically, how long it takes me to edit. When I started, obviously I knew when in 2019, I still am relatively new, but I was really new, just getting off of one season, half of a season of editing in 2018, kind of understanding what I was doing, but still fresh. As I would move on, like I didn't adjust my editing process, right? I was struggling because early on I wouldn't shoot a lot of things, right? Capture more. Number two, I wasn't capturing very much, right? So my edit process wasn't really that terrible, right? Because I didn't have that much to look at. So I would just, hey, I've got 15 shots. Here. Trim that down. Throw in a song. Render. Wouldn't take very long. And then I would start to shoot more at these events, and now I've got, I've got 600 shots, like, oh God, let me look at that. No, I don't like that one. Let me look at that. No, I don't like that one. This one, that one. Now if I put that over here, audio, no, I'm not really, there was just a lot more to it. When you shoot 10 times more video, you've got that much more to go through. Okay, so that was my top 5. How about a couple bonus ones? We kind of alluded to this in the top 5, but flushing out your timeline document. This is a big thing. Having a timeline is great. It helps you understand when things are happening and what things are happening. But one of the things that I need to do, and why it's not on the list, but it's on the on the honorable mentions. So fleshing out the timeline is pretty important, right? And that's one of the things that I need to work on this year in 2020 is making sure I know when things are happening, but specifically things like the portrait shots and where they're going to go. Where are you planning on going for these shots? Is your photographer taking you to these separate locations? That's not the ceremony, that's not the reception. And how long do we have for this? What's the address? And that, for a couple different reasons. One, I can kind of plan out my day, right? Like, okay, we're going to go, usually what's happened in the past couple times is a bride's had like 4 or 5 places that they want to go in between the ceremony and the reception. And the photographer will take them to all these places and shoot them. And that's all well and good. And I can go to all those, but the problem is I need to be back at the reception setting up with the DJ. So maybe I'll go to the first 3 and then skip out on the last 2 and then duck out and head over to the DJ who's at the reception. So I need to know, like, what are these 3 places? What order are you going into in these? Where's your photographer taking you? I don't know that information. I get that information the day of the wedding, and it's not bad, but it's a little nerve-wracking not knowing where you're gonna be. And okay, yeah, we can go. Let's see here. We'll go to the first 2, and we'll skip out on the 3rd one and duck out. And the thing is, if you know ahead of time, right, you can kind of scope out these places, and you're like, you know what? I really want to shoot that last place. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go to the first one. I'm actually going to, after the ceremony, I'm going to duck out. I'm going to go to the reception hall. I'm going to get everything set up that I can. And then I'm going to meet you at the 2nd location and then shoot that and then shoot the 3rd location. So the last kind of bonus item is backup. And this might cost you a little bit. Keep in mind, the first 5 won't cost you a thing. This is the one thing that will probably cost you a little bit of money. Not much, because memory cards aren't that expensive, and you can pick up an external drive, for $50-$60, and that'll do you wonders. But backups are so important. I can't express the importance of backups. And I think I shared on this channel the one, I think I did, but I'll share it again anyway. So the one wedding that we shot was up in Cleveland, that was up in Cleveland, and I had two cameras. I had one camera that was kind of like my safe shot that was at the back of the ceremony and kind of capture everything. It was really kind of like my go-to, in between while I was running and setting up my main camera, I would cut to that camera, capturing the bride and groom. So it wasn't anything special, but it was enough to be able to give me that 15 to 30 seconds to like change locations, change focus, zoom in, zoom out, that type of stuff, right? So it was a necessity. Like I needed that because I can't just cut that stuff out and not have anything, right? It would just be too choppy, especially during the ceremony. So needless to say, this was before my process of backing things up and making sure I have a copy here, and a copy here. This was before all that. This is when I learned that this is something that I need to do, was backups. I actually sold that second camera to buy the GH5. And when I sold the camera, I sold the memory card. I knew I was going to sell the memory card, or a memory card to go with it, right? But I thought I had pulled the information off of it and put it on the computer. No, I didn't. I did not. Luckily for me, I sold it on Facebook to a very nice gentleman who lives up in Columbus, and we met halfway. And I I pretty much set him up. He was buying the camera for his daughter or niece, I think. She was going to be doing she was getting into filmmaking, and she wanted to record things. And I pretty much set her up with almost like a vlogging type of setup. She had a microphone, she had a smaller tripod, she had one of those C-clamp things that you could hook on the bottom of it so you can kind of get lower shots or whatever, extra batteries, chargers, kind of like a whole kit, right? And it included a 64 gigabyte memory card, which was the camera angle that I had at this wedding. Luckily for me, he was giving it to her as a gift for her birthday, which was months down the road. So I contacted him. I was like, "Look, dude, you've got some of my footage from a wedding that I have to have back. I'm going to buy you a new memory card. Can you please mail me that memory card back? I'll send one." And, I told him I'd take a picture of the receipt of me shipping it out and it in the box. Luckily he was cool with it. I got the memory card back, unscathed, thank God. And it just that moment in time where you're like panicked, you're like, where's that memory card at? Right? Where is that data at? I haven't erased it yet, because that was my process, right? I would come home and take the memory cards out and dump them on my computer, and I wouldn't delete anything off of the memory card until the next wedding. That would give me some time to edit, and if something went wrong, I would have the backup of the actual recording on the actual memory card. I could pull it off of there. And at that moment, my heart sunk, and I was just like, oh no, where is it? And then I'm just like, it all of a sudden came to me, oh my God, I sent that in the mail last week. Hopefully he hasn't formatted the card or recorded over it or whatever. And like I said, it was just it wasn't anything, inappropriate. It was just the safe shot from the ceremony that I needed for the in-between cuts. And thank God, he sent it back, and I was just like, okay, well, that's never happening again. Immediately ran out and got an external hard drive and started backing up to my computer and then the external hard drive. I used Google Drive for a while to back up my stuff, but eventually that became too, when you're only shooting so many things, a couple, at the very beginning, I was only shooting one shot of everything. I could back up to Google Drive and it wouldn't cost me anything. But now that I shoot multiple, 4 or 5 angles of everything, I'm uploading, 60 to 100 gigabytes worth of stuff. There's no way that I can actually upload all that information. So basically my setup as of right now is upload to my computer, copy it to external hard drive, copy that external hard drive to another external hard drive, and I keep that external hard drive at a separate location, right? So I have one copy on my computer. I've got one copy on an external drive that just sits underneath my computer. It doesn't get used. I don't edit from it. The only time that I access and read and write from it is when I'm dumping files onto it and updating files. When the ceremony video is done, I move that ceremony video to the actual hard drive. The second external hard drive is at a different location. Right now, this is kind of how I back up my backup. There are people that will do like kind of like a wireless backup where they have like their external hard drives are hooked up to the internet and they will back each other up automatically. I'm not quite to that point yet. Probably by the end of 2020 we'll probably be there, because this year I'm planning on switching to 4K, so the files are going to get larger, so we're going to need a little bit better backing up system for the storage space. So that'll be at a later time. It's just having that film, being edit, in the middle of an edit. Like I was like, and I didn't know like right away what was happening. Like I was really just, I knew I had it, right? And so I was just going through my main shot. I was like, okay, let me cut up this shot. Like, okay, I'm moving the camera here and I stop moving here, so I cut that out. And then I'm moving the camera here and stop here. Let's cut that out. Okay, so now let's pull in. Where's the other video file? Oh God. So backups are a must. I use Western Digital. Those little Passport external drives, they're like $60 for a terabyte. They're perfect. They're small. You can transport them really well. I mean, they're not like the rugged ones where you can take them on like a four-wheeler and like edit on the four-wheeler type of thing. And like, they don't have any like outside protection, for like drops or falls or anything like that. But you can definitely put that in like in your backpack, and like, it's not any less fragile than your camera body. But that's what I use. And, it's probably not the best solution, but it's better than nothing. And that's really what you're kind of going for when you're first starting out, is better than nothing when it comes to backing stuff up. So anyway, guys, I really do appreciate you watching. That's my list, top 5. Again, it kind of went a little long. Sorry about the side stories, but again, this is what I learned in 2019. I hope you got some value out of it. I really do appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you like the content. Click the bell if you want to be notified. We're going to be uploading more content like this all throughout the year. We've got a set schedule, 3 videos a week. 2 vlogs on Monday and Friday, and then a video on Thursday. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.